Hey guys, my name is Francisco Hernandez, and today I'm doing another episode in my Building the Shot series. If you guys are not familiar with what that is, it's just a series that I started recently where I pretty much do my best to pretty much break down everything I could about how a certain photo of mine that I'm going to be talking about was created. And in this video, we're going to be going over this image here on the screen of Sarah from when I recently traveled to Dallas and I attended the state fair and did a shoot there. I've already done a lot of episodes in this series, so in case you guys want to know how I created any of the images that are on the screen right now, any of these images, you can check out the playlist that's going to be in the top right corner of the screen or in the description area below so you can see exactly how I created those images. If you guys aren't already following me on Instagram, I highly recommend that you do. It's at FJHphoto. I try to make every single post very, very educational. I share the final shot, I share a labeled and unlabeled behind the scenes photo. Sometimes I share a photo without the light firing at all, so you know exactly what it did. Sometimes it's straight out of camera shots. I pretty much just jam pack everything I can about how that shot was taken in every single post. So I also share the EXIF data, the lighting information, and pretty much anything that I think would help you guys figure out how that shot was taken or why it was taken in a certain way. I also share a lot of behind the scenes content in my Instagram stories, specifically just on my Instagram. And I share a lot of photos first on my Instagram. So you guys definitely need to check me out. I really appreciate it. And I think you guys would learn a lot following along. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started talking about this photo right here on the screen of Sarah, because that's the main reason why we're here. And it has a lot involved about how this shot was taken. So the first thing that I do want to go over is how I actually got permission to shoot at Texas Fair, because that's one question that I was getting asked a lot when I shared this photo on Instagram. To be honest with you guys, I didn't check any of the rules or regulations regarding photography at the Texas State Fair. I took a huge risk taking my gear. I took it in my cart. I intentionally did two things though that might have helped me get through, but I honestly just took a huge risk. I wanted to just see if I can take photos there with my lighting and see if anybody would have told me something while I was there, and thankfully nobody did. I've done photo shoots before in big cities and I've done photo shoots at night, but I've never done a photo shoot at a fair, not even once before, in a big city at night. So two things that I did to kind of maybe lessen the factor of me getting in trouble was, one thing is that I didn't use any sort of stands. I was very fortunate that a couple of people that attended my photo walks wanted to attend this photo shoot so we could help each other holding the lights. So that's exactly what we did. When I was shooting, they were holding the lights for me. When somebody else was shooting, I was holding the light for them, and we just alternated like that. And that was one thing that I think was very, very beneficial for us not getting in trouble, because typically, again, with light stands, you're getting in the way, you're making an obstacle in people's way of, spending their money at different things that are going on at the fair. So that was one thing that I think was very, very beneficial for us being able to shoot there. So instead of a stand, I used a PhotoFlex Light Reach Plus. That's a monopod that I absolutely love. It's the one that you're gonna see in the behind the scenes photo for this shot. And when it comes to the light that was in the back, the V1, I didn't use any sort of stand at all. I just brought the speed light by itself because I was thinking whoever's gonna be hand holding that V1, they could just hold it. They don't need something to really adjust it to be high or too high or anything. So I just had it just with the V1 by itself. The second thing that I did, which was kind of related to the first one, which is wanting to be away from people or not getting in their way, was we did that. We chose a spot that was not too close to people walking about. We chose a very spacious area so that we could it could be easier for us to shoot with Sarah and people wouldn't be getting in our way. And this spot that we chose ended up being perfect for where to place Sarah, to have the nice Ferris wheel going on behind her as a nice backdrop. And it also provided a nice little bit of rim light on the camera left side of the image in some of the images that we took, which was a nice little blue little rim light from the nearby ride that was going on. This spot also ended up being really perfect because if you take a look at the image, you can see that none of the people that are in the image are facing us, photobombing basically. And this ended up being because there was a ride that was going on camera left. Remember I told you that a second ago? And because of that line, it kind of formed a barrier away from people that were not in the line for the ride and us, so that people wouldn't walk towards us and get in our shots. And because of where I was taking shots, my position, the people that were in line were kind of facing away from us. So I was seeing just this kind of the side of their head, the back of their head, and basically not just their faces just looking at me while I was taking some shots. So that was pretty much how I got permission to shoot at the fair, and pretty much what I did to avoid getting kicked out, just in case people were being a little bit too strict that day. What I want to do now is just go over briefly of how this shoot was set up because it isn't long at all. I just asked on Instagram if any Dallas area models were available to shoot at Texas State Fair Thursday night. Sarah reached out to me, said she was available since she was already going to be there, and it ended up being perfect for that. I had actually planned to just shoot with Sarah myself, but there was a lot of cool people that were attending the photo walks that I did the previous couple of days, like I mentioned before, I think. So I asked them if they wanted to attend this photo shoot, and they were able to do that. So that's why we were able to help each other, and that was something that was very, very important to me because I was deadly sick that day and so tired. So a lot of them were taking shots and I took barely any shots, less than 100 or less than 80 maybe. Okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about the camera gear and the lens. The camera was not so important. I shot with the Sony a7R IV because it's Sony's latest camera and I'm really liking that grip on that camera, but that's not really important. The lens choice was something that was really important to me because I wanted to shoot with my Sigma Art 105 1.4, but it was just too telephoto and it was just gonna get a small section of the Ferris wheel that was behind her because that Ferris wheel was so close. I honestly wish I had a shot with the Sigma Art 105 so you guys can see exactly how much of the background you would see. It might have been a nice bokeh filled background, but it wasn't something that I wanted to get because I did want to get the Texas State Fair or whatever going on the Ferris wheel behind her. So I needed to shoot with a wider lens. Because we were shooting very close to that Ferris wheel, I needed to shoot with something wide like a 35. And luckily enough, I did have my Samyang 35 1.4 and that's exactly what I used, and it ended up being really, really great for the shot. If I wanted to get something similar to this shot right here with the 35, I'd have to get a long distance away from that Ferris wheel to the point where it was a bit small in the background. And because it's smaller in the background, using the Sigma Art 105 1.4, we would compress that background and appear bigger, which would give something similar to the 35 1.4. The settings that I ended up using was ISO 1000, f1.4 at 1/250th of a second. I could have shot at a much slower shutter speed to keep the ISO lower, but again, I might have mentioned this earlier, but I was deadly sick. I was like so tired and dying, and I needed to just use at a faster shutter because I was just tired and I wasn't as stable as I usually am. So I used a higher ISO. A lot of people were asking me, why did I use such a high ISO? Why isn't it so noisy? If you use an older camera, regardless of camera brand, it's gonna be very noisy at ISO 400, at 800. And if you have newer cameras, no matter the brand, it's gonna have way better ISO performance. So you can go up to 6400 or 12800 and still get pretty usable images. Now I wanna talk about the lighting for this shot because it is something that was very, very important to this shot. And it's something that did have a lot of consideration before I even did the shoot. For this shot, I used the Godox AD400 Pro as the main light, and I used the Godox V1 as a rim light. And I chose both of these lights specifically because they have nice, bright modeling lamps, and that was gonna be something that I was gonna use only for this shoot. And I actually did end up using flash just for maybe 1 or maybe 10 shots later during this shoot, but I did intend to shoot with just nothing but those modeling lamps on these lights. So I have the Godox V1 right here so you can see exactly how the modeling lamp looks like and what color. Right now I have the temperature of my video exposed around, I think 5600, 5500. If I'm wrong, I'll add that on the bottom of the screen. But you guys can see the modeling lamp right here. It's at power level 1. It can be adjusted all the way to power level 10, which is exactly the power level that I used for this shot. I also have the Godox AD400 Pro right here so you guys can see exactly how it looks like. This one can be adjusted from 10% all the way up to 100%. And for this shot that I took right here, this one was at 50%. And sometimes I did have it as low as maybe 25%. As far as the battery on the two modeling lamps here on both of these lights, I'm not sure exactly how long it'll last until the battery runs out, but I have used it for, I think, more than an hour on the AD400 Pro and the battery didn't die. And the V1, I'm not sure. I will do some testing so you guys can know exactly what those power levels are, those, the battery drainage on those, so you guys can know exactly how long to use them. When it comes to the modifiers that I used, I didn't use any on the V1 because it wasn't really necessary and I was trying to be very light to avoid getting kinked out again. But when it came to the modifier on the AD400 Pro, I used the Glow Easy Lock 34-inch beauty dish. It's my absolute favorite beauty dish, or actually my favorite modifier right now. I've been using it for, I think, a lot in the past year and a half. And it's my go-to modifier. I did want to make a video for that modifier, but I've just been a little bit lazy, so I'll just give you a quick review right now. It does come with this carrying case right here, and this is exactly how I packed it in the cart when I was entering the festival, the fair, because I was thinking maybe it'll be less likely to get kicked out if I bring it in the case and people don't see that it's a big old photo equipment umbrella. So, but maybe it could have been a case where it looks like it's just gonna rain and this is an umbrella, so I could have just left it out of the case. Who knows? I just added it inside the case, even though I don't really use the case a lot. It does come with a grid, a reflector plate, and 2 layers of diffusion, which I always use on my modifiers. And I actually always have the 2 diffusion panels on already. And yeah, this is pretty much how it is. All right, so here's the 34-inch glow beauty dish right here. It's the white interior just because it's a little bit softer, but I have heard from my friend Rob that the silver interior is just gonna last longer. But I've been using this one for a year and a half, so I'm fine with it. I love this modifier because it folds open and closes very, very fast. It has a little bit of a little zip right here, so I can put my hand in there in case I needed to add a gel or something. It also has Bowen's mount. It also doesn't cost a lot. It's about $79, I believe. If it's less than that or more than that, I'll correct myself on the bottom of the screen. I think I mentioned it uses Bowen's mount. But yeah, it's very, very sturdy. A lot of people ask why I don't use my 38-inch glow pear pop. It's because this one is more sturdy, but this one is a little bit heavier. So if I needed to be extra light, I would use my 38-inch glow pear pop over this one. But this one is just really, really perfect. Again, I wanted to make a video reviewing this, but I've just been lazy. Yeah, I highly recommend this beauty dish. It's just absolutely awesome. And I'll just go ahead and show you guys how fast it is to close it down. Right there. I'm done. Okay, so now that you guys know everything about how the shot was set up, the different things I did to avoid getting kicked out, and the lights that I used, as well as the camera and lens, let's go ahead and show you guys exactly how the shots look like and all the shots that ended up leading to the final one that we've been talking about all this time. All of these photos are gonna be straight out of camera, so you guys can see exactly how they look like. Okay, so here's the first photo that I ended up taking. One thing I wanna let you guys know before I go on is that when it comes to taking photos at night, 2 things are gonna go on, especially if you have LEDs. One thing is that the LED might not show up at all because of the, it's just changing between the type of effect that's going on, and the colors might also change as well. So that's exactly what's going on in this shot right here. You can see in the background that some of the letters going on the top are showing up, but the rest of the letters aren't. And that was maybe just a bit of a transition between the light showing up in a spiral or something like that. So that's something that you definitely need to take in consideration, the timing and the colors that are gonna go on. Although I don't typically like to shoot the same exact shot multiple times, I don't do burst shots or anything. It will be something that I will do in terms of this situation where those variations are gonna occur. I actually do really like this shot. I like her pose, I like her expression, I like the fact that the light's hitting a little bit on the side of camera left, her face, providing just some sort of different color in her face. And yeah, I actually do like the framing as well. So I probably will edit this one. But one thing that is going on is the octaboxes are showing up, or the beauty dish is showing up in the top right corner of the screen. I also think that the brightness could be a little bit brighter. The output could be brighter. So I'm not sure if I was at like a lower output, like 20% here, and then eventually I went up to like 50%. So I'm gonna go on to the next image now. This is something that I didn't really like at all when I was taking it. It was just something that I thought maybe it'll work, but because I was shooting at a low angle, she was still posing the same at the same angle, and that's why she looks like she's like this to me. If she were to go ahead and give me a little bit of lean forward, then we fix that perspective and she ends up looking like normal, like if she's normally posed if I was at normal eye level. I think after I took the shot, I told her that. I told her, because you're standing straight regular and I'm at a lower position, we're getting that little bit of under the chin kind of look. So it's not a bad image to me, but it's something that I want to be a little bit better. So yeah, let's go ahead and check the next couple of images. I don't like the lighting here. It's just a little bit too dramatic. I actually wanted to see the catch lights in this image, so I think I do lower the light a little bit. But again, this is just something that's very, very subjective. It could be something that you're aiming for, this nice drama, no catch lights. I do like the background, but again, let's move on because I want you guys to see exactly what led to that final image. This right here is just a pose variation, but I actually really like the pose, and I like the fact that the colors are different as well. They When they were red, it was something that was really nice, but I felt like the blue was a nice change. And you can see that the light that's getting on her hair, that's just really nice to me. I think that's the light that's going on from the side of the ride. And again, just like I mentioned before, how the lights change and the brightness changed, I want to say that when it came to this shot here, that ride that was next to us was brighter and a little bit more bluer, which is why it showed up a little bit in her hair more than before. So let's move on to the next shot after that. And you guys can see just exactly what was going on in her hair before is not going on anymore in this shot. The settings are exactly the same, ISO 1000, f1.4, 1250th a second, but you're seeing a lot less of that light showing up in her hair, and you're seeing a different color going on in the Ferris wheel behind her. You're seeing yellowish white to blue rather than just all blue like in this image here. So that's something, again, you need to really take into consideration the timing. Try to get familiar with how the lights are, take like maybe 5 minutes or a couple, maybe less, to see exactly how the lights are going to change, and then time it so that you can get those colors in your shot. So one thing I can tell you about this image here is that she's too dark. So one thing that I ended up doing, of course, was raising the output of the modeling lamp, which is what you're seeing right here. Again, this shot and this last shot, the same exact settings, but the only thing I did was just increase the power of the light, which is why you're seeing her much more brighter. And again, something that I had no control over was the Ferris wheel colors, and that's why it's more blue. I usually like to have the models facing a little bit away from the light or towards the light, not facing forward. Sometimes I will aim for a facing forward shot, but I was getting tired of that for this photo, for this location. So I had her change position, look to one side, and take some photos that way. And I actually really liked that, and it's why I had her posed in that position with that final shot that we've been talking about all this time. I do really like her position. I like her pose. But again, the composition isn't just ideal for me, so that's why I took a couple more shots after this. She is looking down at me now, but I feel like it's not something that's favorable to me. I want her to at least be a little bit smiling, not look evil. But again, if you want that evil look, then of course go ahead and take shots for that. At this point when I was taking photos, I felt like I was taking too many shots with the Ferris wheel going on in the background, and I wanted to see if I can get something that's more interesting at eye level. So that's why I ended up taking these shots. I'm not a big fan of her pose here, but again, that's why I changed the pose up a little bit and had her look away and took some shots. I think what's going on in these shots that I'm not liking is the lighting position. I should have been more adamant about changing that position, but I was just so tired that time. I was almost passing out that day. So if I could go ahead and retake the shot, I would probably have it camera left and up and really, really close. Right now, I want to say it's at camera right and above aiming down. Or not so much camera right hardcore, but just a slightly to my right, up and aiming down. Here's another shot took with this same position and everything, but I ended up changing it. Actually, the first thing that I ended up doing right now for this shot was I ended up adding that V1 right there. You guys can see from the hair right there, that's the Godox V1 bare at 10 power, 10 output level on that light. I want to say maybe 5 feet away, and that's what you're getting. That's the effect that you get with that. You could make it less intense by making it a little bit indirect or just lowering the output. So she's a little bit on the right of the photo right here on the right third, and I wanted her more to the center, so I just went ahead and just moved myself so that she's right there in the center. I also had her take a couple of different shots. I had her look up, smile, which is what this shot is right here. But again, you can see that the LEDs in the Ferris wheel aren't really lighting up throughout the entire Ferris wheel. So of course I take a couple more just in case. And it didn't really light up in those couple of shots. I actually do like the shot, so I'm gonna rate it before I forget. I might edit that up. Yeah, and these are all straight out of camera shots. I didn't adjust anything. I shoot auto white balance. But yeah, here's some different variation of types of shots. You can see that the rim light from the ride is showing up on the camera left of her face. You can see the V1 on camera right, and yeah, different things like that going on. When it came to this point of the photo shoot, I was liking the moody look that she was giving, so I wanted to grab some shots like that at eye level and then go back to that lower angle. So I took some shots like this. Of course, the LEDs made a big difference. I actually like this shot here because of the red kind of matching the pants just a little bit. Again, we went back to when she was looking up here, I didn't like the way that the light was sculpting her face. And when she started to look down, I really liked how it was kind of carving her chin a bit. So I really liked that, and that's why I took a lot of shots in this position. You can see that the light changes here. I think since I have it on auto white balance, I believe the camera was changing the white balance because of those LEDs going on. That was very prominent in the background. So you can see that she's a little bit more yellowish here, a little bit more orange here in her skin tone. I did take a couple more shots here, and then ultimately I ended up going at a lower. Right now what I'm seeing in these shots is I'm not liking how there's so much shadow on the chin and the side of the cheek that it kind of looks like she's a floating head. You need a little bit of light going on here. So I took another shot here, a different angle. I really liked this shot. And then when it came to this shot, the main reason why I liked this shot over this one here was because of her expression was a little bit more of a smile in this image here. When it comes to my images, I like to have a little bit of a nice expression, a nice smile maybe, or a nice little moody look. I like the backgrounds not to be clipped or anything. A little bit of ambient helps to make, you know, not entirely black image, but I do usually underexpose the background of the image, maybe a stop or two. Everything that was going on in this shot, I was really liking it. I liked her pose, the lighting going on behind her, in front of her, the way that the color showed up on the Ferris wheel behind her, and everything about the shot was really I was really liking, so I ended up editing it. I will show you guys just a couple shots after this so you guys can see exactly how this shot differed from the rest of them. So I think this is just like a second later, 3 seconds later, and you can see from her being a little bit more of a smile to having her hand down, she's a little bit more moody. I actually like this shot, but the little boy right there in the background kind of ruins it. But if I really wanted to, I could probably Photoshop him out using this image right here. But yeah, just let's go ahead and see the rest couple of images. Oh yeah, she was changing her arm position, but I was just taking a shot. I'm not a fan of that pose there, so you know, if you guys like it, you can use that. But yeah, I do like these shots as well, but I liked that other shot that we've been talking about a lot more, so that's why I used it. If you guys like any other shots that I've taken so far, you go ahead and just tell me the number, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that is a good shot, I'll edit that. But yeah, here's the behind the scenes. That's my friend Hector in the back. You can actually see that the light, the V1 actually, it goes to sleep after maybe 2 minutes of use on the modeling lamp. So I had to keep turning it on. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't checked the menu to see if you can just leave it on continuously, but it was good to kind of keep aware of the battery level of the light. So I didn't mind having it go off every now and then. So here's Hector. Here's my friend V right there holding the AD400 Pro with the 34-inch beauty dish and the Photoflex. And there's Sarah right there in the middle. Hector's doing some sort of yoga pose. But you can see that he's noticing that the light went off and turning it on, and then went back to posing. And then yeah, that's another shot from when I kept taking pictures. But I wanted to just show you guys all those images. And now we're gonna go move into Photoshop so you can see exactly what I did to edit the image. I'm sorry guys for the constant interruptions before going to Photoshop, but I didn't show you the adjustments that I made to the photo before I moved into Photoshop. So I want to do that right now. I do have the edit here on my laptop because that's what I edited the photo on. So I'm gonna go ahead and just focus on that. So in case you guys are wondering why I'm not looking at my computer, that's why. All right, so back to this image here. I do want to show you guys exactly, do not want an update. I'm gonna show you guys exactly how it looks like here. So kind of a big difference. So I do want to show you guys exactly what I did. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you that. I'm gonna go ahead and show you actually something that I don't do first, I usually do it later, is show you guys exactly what I did in terms of adjustment brushes, which just means stuff that I did selectively to the image. So this stuff right here, all that stuff that's red, I added a little bit of exposure. You can see on the right side of the screen, it's at 0.4. I'm gonna take it off, and then I'm gonna put it back on. So you guys can see that little bit of brightness exposure there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hover over this one here. You guys can see in this little area, I added a little bit of temperature. So maybe I should have showed you guys the adjustments first before I showed you this, but the reason why I added more temperature, a little bit more warmth to her, is because I felt like the image being a little bit cooler would be really nice. So when I didn't add a little bit of warmth to her skin, you can see she's much, much cooler. So I added that little bit of warmth and kind of corrected that change in color temperature that I added to the background, to the entire image. So and the last thing I did was I just made the eyes a little bit brighter. So you guys can see right there. I'm going to take it off. Just focus on the eyes. So you can see that they are actually a tad bit brighter, just not anything too drastic, but that's the difference that I did. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys all the different adjustments. Like I said before, I did make the image much cooler, but what it started off was at 4450. So this is the image right here at 4450. And I just felt like the temperature from the background being a little bit of blue, a little bit more closer to the blues, the reds being closer to the blues in terms of like the gradient, I guess, of color. And also the background on the floor, it could benefit from being a little bit cooler. So that's why I made it a little bit colder. That's what ended up with that result there. I also made the overall exposure just a little bit brighter. So this is before that change. I also always boost the colors on the bottom using the calibration area. I use the blue primary saturation slider to bring it up to 80. And when it comes to adjusting like the distortion and the vignetting, I usually don't mind the distortion, but for this image, it did look better. Well, actually now I like it like that, but I did like it with the correction. And I usually always leave the vignetting there because I like it how it draws the eye towards the center of the subject, which is center of the photo, which is usually where the subject is. And I did just do a little bit of sharpening, but no noise reduction. I adjusted the oranges. You can see on her skin tone actually how it looks like. And the yellows. And again, this is something that you'll focus on the skin tone. And I do usually adjust the hues and the saturations to kind of get a better skin tones that are more of my liking. And I did reduce some of those oranges and those yellows because usually when I increase the saturation, it gets too strong in those two colors. So I reduced them. And also usually the blues get a little bit too strong, but I didn't mind them being so strong in this image because they're made for a nice colorful image. And that is everything I did in Lightroom. And now I'll bring these different adjustments, this photo here, into Photoshop and show you guys exactly what I did in Photoshop. Let's go ahead and just start with how this image looked like to start with, which is the image that you're about to see on the screen right here. In my opinion, it's not anything that's too dramatic. It's not too drastic of a difference. It's pretty much just exactly how I envisioned the image to look like. And I just did certain things to achieve that end result. So the very first thing that I did was, of course, I always want to remove distractions. And I believe I did that on this first image here, but I honestly can't see what I did. So I'm gonna hold down Command and click on that and then zoom in. You can see all the stuff that's highlighted on the screen right now. That's pretty much all the stuff that's being affected and stuff that I might have removed. Maybe minor blemishes on the face, little lints that's not showing up on the shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit Control or Command D to deselect that. Zoom in just a little bit more. And then just toggle that layer off and on. You can see it on the face. You can see a little bit on the shirt. Yeah, just little things that are just personally distracting me that you probably wouldn't even see on Instagram, which is for me, I guess, more than anything. But after that, I went ahead and just did some dodge and burn, which again is my favorite thing to do. So let's go ahead and see exactly what I did. Okay. Oh, it's honestly very, very subtle with this dodge and burn. Sometimes I'll start off with a subtle dodge and burn, do a little bit more things in terms of color, and then go ahead and do a heavier dodge and burn, which I believe I do later on. That's why I think there's actually 3 dodge and burn groups here. So this first one is very subtle. I'm going to zoom into her face real quick and see exactly what was changed on her face. Okay, so okay, my bad. I have this incorrectly labeled as dodge and burn, but I believe it's frequency separation. So let me go ahead and just check that out. Yep, high layer, low layer, that's frequency separation. So I just wanted to go ahead and just, I felt like some of the things, the colors that were going on the face were just a little bit too contrasty, and in order to get a little bit less contrast, I used dodge and burn to kind of just smooth in those transitions. So that's what I did for this shot here. Let me just zoom back out, see what I did on this layer 2. Probably another layer that's for minor distractions, but I'm holding down Command and clicking on that layer and I'm seeing nothing change. So maybe I just added a layer, forgot what it was, and just thought there was something on there and moved on. So that happens sometimes. But now let me show you the dodge and burn. You know what, I'm gonna toggle it on. I'm gonna go ahead and just take them all off. And you guys can see that there's 2 copies of dodge and 2 copies of burn in there. Sometimes I'll go ahead and just add kind of a universal dodge. I'll just add a lot of dodge. and sometimes I want to focus on just one spot and dodge that area, so I'll add another layer. So that's what I did in this instance. I have 2 dodges, 2 burns in this one group, so you guys can see that's the reason why I do that. This first dodge is super subtle. I'm gonna hold down Alt, click on that layer so you guys can see exactly what I targeted. And this is something that's on the face, so I'm gonna zoom into the face. And you guys can see exactly the effect that I did with this layer of dodge. And then the layer of burn, are probably the same thing that's adjusted to just the face. That little bit of highlight on her nose was a little bit too strong, so I just burned it a little bit. And I believe these last 2 layers are the universal, the global dodge and burn. So that means just kind of just zooming out and just getting stuff from afar. The closer stuff is usually called micro dodge and burn, which is just closer to the face or detailed stuff like that. So I'm going to zoom back out, toggle the dodge on, and you guys can definitely see on her clothing, on the front of her leg, the back of her leg, the front of her shirt, where else? Yeah, and then a little bit on the back of her hair. So I'm going to hold down Alt again, click on that layer, and you guys can see everything that I dodged right there. So I guess I did dodge some of the pants right there, some of the shadow on the pants, and then everything that I burned right here. So a little bit of the shadow on the arm, a little bit of the wrist, a little bit of the center of the pants, and the ear, and a little bit of the hair. So I'm going to hold down Alt again, click on the layer, and you guys can see exactly what I affected. There's a little spot on her shirt there that I guess I really didn't like right here, that I just went ahead and just burned it a bit. So that was dodge and burn. After that, I felt like I wanted to adjust the colors, so I did that. From here to here. I felt like this gave much better skin tones. If I'm honest with myself, I feel like it's a tiny bit saturated, but I didn't mind that. This is something that I like, the universal, or the whole image, the colors of the whole image, and I might go ahead and just reduce it selectively later on. So I just kept it at here, and then what did I do on this layer 3? I did some, probably just blemish removal on the face, so I'm gonna skip that. Then I did another layer of dodge and burn of just that highlight on the back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in. It was really bugging me how it looked like, just kind of inconsistent and patchy, so I just went ahead and just did a lot of dodge and burning on that. I'm not gonna go ahead and show you guys the layer mask because it's just all over the place, and it's just something that was tedious, that was just annoying me, that I went ahead and just adjusted. After that, I did a lot of things in terms of color to this image. So what I usually do is add a blank layer, sample certain colors, paint them over others, and then change the blending mode to color, and then that kind of just blends the colors to look some different ways. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean. You can see that of the people here on the back, on the floor, that they have a little bit of color, even though they're kind of just washed over with a lot of blue. I wanted them to just be really blue all over. So what I did was I did a lot of different things apparently, but I'm not going to go over every single thing here. But one thing I did do was I just did the colors of the blues of people in the background. So I just sampled some of that blue going on in the background, painted it over them, and changed that blending mode to color. And I even adjusted the opacity to 50 because I felt like 100% was too much. And I did this to different things in the image. Oh, that was just me removing those little bokeh balls in the tree. Adding a little bit more color in certain areas. And removing some things probably. Oh, this last one here, I just didn't like the colors here, so I just adjusted them to be the same color. Oh yeah, that shirt right there, the little girl in the pink shirt. And those were the colors that I adjusted. And now let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. So obviously I felt like the brightness was pretty good, but I felt like it could be better. So I just adjusted her in this area right here. So that's what I did in this image, or in this layer right here. And then I just added a little bit more dodge to that highlight on the side of her back. It was just really bugging me. So I just did that. I even adjusted some of the wrinkles on that area, and I was just focused on that area way too much. Then I went ahead and just did, what did I do in this curves 4 copy 2 layer? This is why I suggest you guys name your layers so you guys know exactly what you did. And apparently I did, again, something more to the highlight on the shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip past that. And this next one, I adjusted the color balance of the image in different ways. I added more reds to the cyans in the midtones, more yellow to the midtones. I added a tiny bit of red to the shadows, a little bit of yellows to the shadows, and I also added a little bit of red, a little bit of magenta, and a little bit of yellow to the highlights. So again, this is something that I always just kind of play around with the sliders to see if I like it, you know, with these certain colors showing up more or less, and I just have fun with it. And that's pretty much what I did to get the color balance right there. So I was toggling this layer 10 off and on, and it wasn't showing up anything. So it's just probably another instance where I thought I did something, I left it, but it ended up being nothing at all. So let's go ahead and move to the last dodge and burn on the shirt. So let me just zoom in just a little bit. I just felt like there could have been more definition on the highlights and shadows on the shirt. So I just dodged and burned the shirt there. And that's pretty much everything I did on that. I just wanted to get a little bit more definition on the shirt. The very next thing is just me removing a little bit of wrinkle on the shirt and then liquefying her back to be a little bit more pushed in, and just a little bit more of the jeans on the top to be a little bit more in. And that's everything that I did to this image. If you guys want to know more about what I did to this image or anything that I might have forgotten, let me know in the comment section below. But this video is probably too long already. Thank you guys for bearing through and learning as much as you could, or listening to me rant and talk too much. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the next videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.